Okay, this is a follow-up to the email we sent out last night. We didn't send out a free pick. We sent out a basically join us on Twitter email. We was going to try and experiment today, sending out free real-time picks. Not the best day to do it, but I'm going to go over some of them that we sent out this morning. I don't know how many people joined us on Twitter, but I'll start with AEZS. This thing, a small, low-priced biotech was set to open around 2. You can see it had a 2 spike back here, and then not much in the way of this 220 area. So we put this one on watch, and let's switch to 5-minute candles, and I'll show you what it looked like when I mentioned it. Had a nice, kind of a big range for the opening 5-minute candle, but definitely huge volume, over 1 million shares in the first 5 minutes, and then an inside candle on the next one. So my call was if it got over the second candle, 202, in other words, if it got to 203, I'm sorry, with a worst case stop, 197. It did trigger there and then finally got through the high of the day, which is what we were hoping for, but only got to 209. Now 6 cents on a $2 stock, probably an area where you should probably pay yourself on some. What we teach our members is anytime you get any kind of move in your favor, put some money in your pocket and then tighten up the stop on the rest. So hopefully nobody let that go to 209 and come down and all the way to stop you out on the whole position. It's not what we teach in our chat room. Again, I didn't have real-time access to everybody, but I'm going to use these videos on some of the real-time calls to show you, kind of walk you through our trading methodology as the triggers and setups unfold. AUY, a gold miner, very near a breakout. It's had trouble with this 13 area back here, and again, but it's consolidating in this 13 area and looks like it could make a move higher. Of course, it's going to probably depend on gold itself. But we called it after it had done this. After it hit 13.15, put in this red candle, 13.16, what did we say the stop? 12.90 stop. Never did trigger, just rolled over, so that was a no trade. HOLX was another one that we called, 21.48. Just above this little base here. Thought that might get us through the high of the day, and the daily is kind of in breakout territory. So 21.48. It only got us to, let's see, the stop was, let me get this right, 21.39. Okay, it didn't stop out here. So it went to 21.48, and it did make it to 21.56. Big deal. Not even a dime. But again, if you adhere to our rules, maybe put a little in your pocket. My personal rule, if something moves a nickel or more in my favor, I don't necessarily sell, but I make a mental note, hey, it moved a nickel. If it comes back to my entry, I'm out. Always play defense. Let me get some more here. We sent out Joe today. Joe. Nice tight base after a run, and see this spike back here a few days before. These are 5-minute candles, so I thought over this base, I called it at 27.62, 27.49 stop. So only 13 cents risk, and as it hit there, 27.62, within 5 minutes, it was up to 27.98 and ended up getting through 28, 28.01. So not a big move, but 39 cents a share. I'll share one with you that we didn't send out as a tweet. I guess that's what they call it. Abercrombie on this sell-off here. You know we like these massive sell-offs using a method we teach, 55.14, somewhere in this area, and it made it by the end of the day to 55.72. Stop was 28 cents below that didn't get hit. So there's an idea that we didn't have time to send out one. TiVo we did send out. TiVo was in this nice tight base here. Got a nice volume pop, and then kind of grinded sideways for a while. So I called it over the high of this volume pop. These are 5-minute candles. So 866. Worst case stop on, let's see, on the tweet. I feel funny saying the word tweet, was 854. However, in our chat room, again, to give you some insight on how we trade, once we got the trigger right there, 866, we'll go below the previous 5 here. So really, when I put out the tweet, that was way back here, somewhere when it looked like this, and it didn't trigger. So much later, we got a nice tight base and a great place for a stop. So for the chat room members, it was 866, and the stop ended up being 861. So a nickel risk. You never let this trigger above resistance and then let it go below the trigger candle or the previous candle itself. So a nickel risk, and from 866, look at that, made it all the way to 891. Not huge, but a nice percentage move in a pretty short period of time on a nickel risk. So not bad there on TiVo. AHD was another tweet we sent out, 2035 trigger. Looked like this at the time. It had a spike here. It's very strong on the daily from yesterday. Took out yesterday's high and then put in a nice base. Had a spike here to 2039 and then a subsequent spike to 2034. So that's why I called it. I said if it breaks 2035, the thinking was it could get through 2039 and maybe make a move at the high of the day. And here's the daily. It was very strong yesterday, as you can see. So I'll go back to the base there, and there was the 2035 trigger. Worst case stop, only 13 cents below. Never got hit. 2035, it ended up getting through the high of the day and making it to 2095. So a 60-cent move on 13 cents risk. So hopefully some of you made some money in AHD as well. And we did have some that didn't do anything. CSR was in a very tight base. It was very strong yesterday. Let me get this right here. Let me find it. Yeah, CSR looked like this. I called it. I said if it breaks this base, it was very strong yesterday, 510. Worst case stop, 506. And there it triggered 510 and hit 506 within 5 minutes. So there's an example of one that didn't work. But it was a 4-cent stop. It ended up going through it later in the day. And that can happen. CENX we sent out twice. I believe we tweeted that one twice. The first one was over this 15-minute candle here, 1653, and it did make it to 1666 again. I kind of have a policy, if I get a dime, I'll sell a little and certainly tighten my stop and not. Once you put money in your pocket, don't ever let it turn into a loss. And then we also called CENX later in the day. I thought if it broke this little flag pattern here, it could get through the high of the day. Nope, that's the wrong one. I thought if it broke this base here, 1683, it could get through the high of the day, and it did, but it only went to 1688. Again, if you kept a short lease, you should have kept that. Could have kept that from costing you much. But again, the stop wasn't very tight, or I'm sorry, wasn't very wide. 1676 stops, only 7 cents at risk there too. That one just didn't follow through. OC is another example of one. Mistake I made there was calling that on a base break during the lunchtime period. Those often fail. Hit 36.55 right there. Just didn't follow through. And look what happened later in the day. It ended up taking out the high of the day. But that's just a reminder to myself. I should never call a base break during the lunchtime slowdown because those have a propensity to fail. And I think that's probably the bulk of the tweets. Again, Abercrombie, we had a trade in chat. I didn't have a chance to. When you're basing something on 2 or 3 or 5 minute candles on a sell-off like ANF had, very tough to go ahead and have time to send out a tweet as well. And I'm not going to do this every day. I may do this once a week in lieu of a free pick based on the daily chart that we might send out. And if I find one, I'll send it out. But otherwise, I'm not going to send out intraday tweets every day. But hopefully, today's experiment, we'll do it once a week, once every other week, or something like that. Hopefully, it at least give you some insight into the kind of setups we look for during our chat room session. So I'm going to stop babbling, and we'll send out, like I said, look for these once a week tweets. It'll be on a random day maybe. And I may send out some on any given day. I might send out one a day just for fun if I really like something. But we'll see. All right, I'm going to stop babbling. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.